Assassination Classroom Season 1 Episode 19.
僕らの暗殺計画がいいところまで行ってしまったせいで、
Yeah, went a little
コロ
bit
先生は
too
完
well.
全防御形態になってしまった。そんな中起こった事件。
Then we got
コロ先生に
poisoned.
頼ることはできない。
Maybe you can use them as a blunt instrument. This is a pretty wild turn for the show to take. This is slightly more dangerous than final exam.
私を渡した方が得策かもしれません。どうしますか？あなた方次第です。
Honestly, I don't fully get why we can't just hand him over, because he's just gonna regrow and then escape on his own. That is to say, there's no practical reason, though I might be missing some of the finer details of this form. The real reason is like most things, spiritual development for the students, the ultimate goal.
これはちょっと
難しいだろ。
ホテルにたどり着く前に転落しよう。
Good lord. That would be very hard to explain to the parents.
崖だけなら楽勝だけどさ。
いつもの特訓に比べたらね。だね。
Wow. It's paying off. Kurosen's having a great time.
難しいけど指揮。
Yeah, I was about to say, he could crush this, probably.
あなたの元には15人の特殊部隊がいるのですよ。
15人？私を忘れないでください。
Oh god.
さあ、
I mean, she actually is useful in this case, so I'll let it slide just this once.
3分でマップを叩き込め。
We got it.
作戦開始。
Karma looks very relaxed. Karma going up the ledge this time. There is something that makes sense about them being ready, though, the special forces comment. Because of what they've been training for. If you train against the impossible, what is scaling a ledge? What is a normal enemy to you? I've been thinking a lot about Final Fantasy VIII recently because of ReZero. And in that game at first glance, it's kind of a trope, you know, it's like a group of high school mercenaries. But then you think, no, they've been in this system since they were kids, trained to do this. That's a huge advantage. There's precedence for this in real life with professional athletes, a lot of whom reached their peak in their early 20s, having started when they were children. These kids haven't had as much time, but that's somewhat accounted for by the rigor, I think, of the instruction, and also where their benchmarks are. Of the scattered things here and there that I've done that I feel good about, some of them came from like failing a much harder goal, and then the next rung down kind of came into view, and it suddenly seemed more manageable. Whereas if I'd started with that as the goal, it would have been the impossible thing. Follow for more hacks. Episode 19, Pandemonium Time. Also their hard work and stuff, you know.
50分。
No restraints, no harnesses, nothing. Just
やっぱ身軽だな岡野は。
running up this mountain with a smile on our faces.
それに比べてうちの先生は動けるのが3人。
Don't bring her. This is too high stakes for this.
学校の裏山でもさせている。
Of course you do.
なるほど。フライボードを自在に操ったのもその成果ですね。
いいから早く登んなさいよ。
Complaining about holding on.
ビッチ先生なんで。
Yes, we need an
留
explanation.
守番とかのけ者みたい。
This is not a good explanation. She's also being really loud, and this is a stealth mission.
ライブマップを表示します。
Oh yeah, this music again. It reminds me of Kesha.
通用口ロック解除。
Yeah. I'd be surprised if there's no resistance or expectation of this raid. And here's the resistance. This looks manageable.
予想以上に警備が多いな。
全員が
I'd
通
be
過するの
somewhat
は
more
難しいん
terrified
じ
if
ゃ。
like there was no one.
ここはやはり。
But wait, this is like a rock, scissors, paper thing. Now I'm more terrified because they know I'd be terrified and more on edge if there were no guards. So the guards are a distraction designed as a lure into a much bigger trap. I'm playing scissors.
何よ、普通に通ればいいじゃない。
You
判
first.
断もできねえのかよビッチ先生。あんだけの警備の。
Yeah, I think she's gonna use her powers of wiles.
だから普通によ。
Bold.
ニューイヤー。
Wow. Help me, I'm drunk and lost.
ごめんなさい。部屋の酒で割り酔いしちゃって。
Works 100% of the time, most of the time.
ピアニストか。しょっちゅう来るからその一人だろ。
She would know how to play the piano, right?
あなたたちにも聞いてほしいの。そして審査して。
I'm not going to critique you. I'm just going to tell you I like it, no matter how bad it is. Because your musical ability and your comedic ability, basically anything you could possibly do, is directly correlated with how attractive you are. She's very lucky in this situation that she's everyone's type in this room. Because it might not always go down that way.
さあ、私のこと。
Also, honestly, I'm in no position to critique piano.
ダメな
But
とこがあったら。
punish me. Sounds pretty good to me.
めちゃめちゃ上手だ。
Yeah, I mean, you'd
演奏
imagine.
即興曲ですね。
There is something deadly about beauty plus talent, especially artistic talent. Here's a fun question to ask your friends and then dive into and think about why this is. It can sometimes be quite revealing. Firstly, do you even have a preference in skill or occupation for an imagined ideal type? And secondly, if so, what is it? And thirdly, why? Some interesting things come out of that. In my experience, sometimes it can reveal what you're actually looking to get fulfilled for you through a relationship. And sometimes they're connected to one's own perceived deficiencies. And also sometimes sometimes. Things people really want to be appreciated for, but feel like that's an underrated aspect of their personality. This is all just from my gut feeling based on conversations I've had. But like, for example, if someone mentions a career that's very intellectual, very academic, at a very obvious level, that person probably values thinking and intellect and conversation very highly. At another level, it could also be that that person wants their partner to be able to understand and appreciate their intellect. In that case, what that person may be looking for in a partner is a peer. In a different category, you have some of the more aesthetically oriented things like model, maybe dancer. And on a basic level, it could be just being very physically oriented. On another, it could be playing with sort of the social identities of that, seeing that as being very physically desirable. With the subcurrent there perhaps being wanting to feel physically desired. It's not perfect. There are a lot of different reasons why someone can like a certain thing, but it almost certainly is a mirror for oneself because it's a fantasy, and by definition, that person is not real yet. So there's nothing you're looking at with the other person.
腕前もさることながら見せ方が実にお見事。色気の見せ方を熟知した暗殺者
Yeah,
が
Wiles, like I said.
もっと近くで確かめて。20分稼いであげる。
20 minutes is bold.
僕らまで思わず目を奪われた。なんて綺麗な先生なんだろうって。
Okay, I'll take your word for it. She must be just a divine beauty.
ピアノ弾けるなんて一言も。
普段の彼女か
I
ら
feel like
甘
that's
く見ない
part of the starter package for like hot female assassin.
君らに会話術を教えているのは世界でも一二を争う
Honeypot Masters. That's a title right there. Damn, I hope to have a title half as cool as Honeypot Master.
こんなところに中学生の団体客なんているんですか？
聞いた限り結構いる
So it's both a hotel and a radio
芸能人や
tower.
金持ち連中のボンボンたちだ王様のように甘やかされて育った彼ら
Ugh, we hate the rich.
だから君たちもそんな輩になったつもりで世の中を舐めてる感じで歩いてみましょう。
Just like everyone always does to us.
悪いな、僕だ。
This is a long shot, but it's also possible that he or she is among
みんな
us.
発熱がひどい。脳にダメージがいかないよう
I mean, My Hero Academia had a mole. Why can't we? Why not us?
私たちだけを狙って盛られたウイルス。
Fox die.
一体いつ？
It's coded to your DNA. Whoever did this really went overkill. You could have just probably put in a couple sleeping pills, called it a day. Probably could have done it with alcohol. I would have a much better example if I knew the first thing about chemistry. But alas, unlike Okuda, science is not alive for me. It died in high school.
油断するな
Yep.
時間ねえんだからさっさと進んだ方がいいだろ
No, you stay in line and you follow instructions. It's him.
ガスかなぜわかったさっきを見せずすれ違いざまやる
だっておじさん、最初にサービスドリンク配った人でしょ。
So we saw him before. Good memory.
クラス全員が同じ。
This pose. Right, yeah, we could sort of figure this out by who didn't.
犯人はあなたよ、おじさんくん。
すごいよ、フワさん。
I'm glad you came, Fua.
普段から少年漫画読んでるとね、普通じゃない状況が来ても素早く適応できるのよ。
It's good that that translates for you.
俺の正体が知れたところでもう
Like, who are you really? I know you're the waiter, but like, more importantly, who are you working for?
所詮他はガキの集まりお前が死ねば統制が取れずに逃げ出すだろうさ
Not. Well, yeah, first you gotta get through him. You were way ahead of yourself.
お前の引率もうここまでだ
Give us the antidote. It would be crazy. Like a crazy twist in this show would totally change my feeling about it and view on it if people started dying here.
僕らの力だけで勝てるのか。
いやー、いよいよ夏休みって感じですね。
The timing.
これねじ込むからパンツ下ろして
What?
口開いて
Among other problems.
この暗殺夏休みを。
濃厚な魚介だしにたっぷりのネギと一
Kaguya
筋の
flashbacks.
ニンニクそして銃
That wasn't covered in Kaguya.
エマは死ねっすご安心を
The secret ingredient in ramen. Gun.
ちゃんと毎晩我が子のように手入れしてます
I hope you don't have any kids. Step one of having a kid, dunk it in ramen. Something tells me this guy's not all there. This is a terribly inefficient way to eat ramen, also.
俺らみたいに何度も仕事をしてきた連中は何かしらこだわりが出てくるもんす
You've lost it. How do you get anything done? It takes you 2 hours to eat ramen because you're eating it through a nozzle of a gun. How do you pick up the actual noodles? At what point do utensils come into the mix? Do utensils come into the mix? I have so many questions. Is this the new weight loss regimen? This whole arc is definitely going to have a takeaway. But looking ahead, I think what I'm going to be left with the most is gun ramen.
例えばスモッグの毒は全て自作洗練された実用性にこだわるあまり研究室まで作る始末
This is more reasonable. These are not the same thing. What are you looking? Which way are you looking?
あいつはちょっと殺し屋の中でも変わってまして。
I don't know, I think we may have peaked at gun ramen.
つまらぬ。足音を聞く限り。
Yeah, he already knows.
なんかその
多くねおじさん。
ぬをつけると侍っぽい口調になると小耳に挟んだぬ。かっこよさそうだから試してみたぬ。
I'm not exactly sure. What are they translating into? No? No?
身体検査に引っかからぬ利点は大きいぬ。近づきざま頸椎をひとひねりぬ。
No.
だが面白いものでね。人殺しのための力を鍛えるほど暗殺以外にも試してみたくなるぬ。
Oh.
すなわち戦いぬ。
Okay, my hopes were dashed. I thought that was going to be interesting for a second. The more you train your strength for killing people, the more you want to use it for something else, like killing people.
ねえおじさんぬ。意外とプロって普通なんだね。ガラスとか頭蓋骨なら
What is he
俺で
holding?
も割れるよ。
Is it a plant?
顎が引けている。今までの彼なら余裕をひけらかして。
Man, that test really had a big impact on him, huh?
相手を見下す構えを。
He's been humbled and has become stronger.
正面から相手の姿を観察している。テスト以来、少々なりを。
Yeah, it was the finals.
どうやら敗北からしっかり学んだようですね。
Has he though? I feel like there has to be some kind of preparation or actual effort.
存分にぶつけなさい。高い大人の壁を相手に。
Well, lucky for us, Karma really hates adults. So far, they've done nothing but disappoint him. Maybe stemming from his father, the principal. Out of the trio, the person I would least like to face is ironically probably the easiest to fight and also the one you would least likely encounter because they're spending an inordinate amount of time eating ramen. And that person is the gun ramen guy. And it's not even because of his abilities. Honestly, I'm skeptical he can even aim the gun. The guy doesn't know what he's looking at, but he just scares me. Power, I understand. Gas, I understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. And that's scary for me. I'm actually intrigued. I kind of want to spend some time with him. We could go to his favorite ramen place and, you know, not eat it. We can get a taste for the broth. That's about it. About Karma, the way I thought they were going with that was about the importance of preparation and not being overconfident. Natural talent only being able to take you so far. There being a major trap and an obstacle to progress in the identity of a thing and thinking that there's some state of being that you embody. You are better or higher than other people, and that will be a strategy in itself that scales infinitely. Of course, that only taking you as far as you can go, which is, in a certain way, about as far as it doesn't really matter. Since you can succeed and get things you want from being in a static place and having a certain high level of skill, natural skill, but it doesn't speak to that deeper level that I think is Koro Sensei's aim of process or like meta skill of your development. There's no arc there or a flat arc, and you can have a great flat arc, but it's still a flat arc. If you want to have an arc, then there are barriers to overcome. And if you're not perfectly satisfied with your level, then sort of by default, your current level, your coasting will only take you as far as what you already are and know. That's sort of out since there's no preparation possible here. Though I guess time has passed in between the final exam and this episode. But I guess what is there is the focus and the humility, not underestimating people or belittling people to sort of keep a status. And if that fails, he can always fall back on, you know, his number one ability, which is his murderous intent.